To answer a question I'm sure some of you might be asking right now, no, this doesn't have anything to do with that Netflix show.
The Netflix Defenders were presented as a street-level contrast to the Marvel Cinematic Universe Avengers. In other words, a group more likely to be taking on organized crime rather than alien invaders. The comic book Defenders are almost the exact opposite of that. The comic book Defenders are a group founded by Doctor Strange who needed assistance taking on a group of Eldritchian nightmares called the Undying Ones. So he performed a specialized spell that would summon help from the strongest heroes around, namely the Hulk, Namor, and the Silver Surfer.
Actually, the comic book Defenders might have one thing in common with their streaming substitutes. They all hate each other.
The Defenders are possibly the all-time clash of personalities. You have two overbearing know-it-alls in Doctor Strange and Namor, the eternally mopey Silver Surfer who, when he's not brooding about being stuck on Earth, he's brooding about being stuck on Earth, and the Hulk who, well, just hates everyone. On top of all that, it turns out the Sorcerer Supreme made a bit of an oopsie-doodle with the spell now forcing the group to come together whenever the situation called for it. And those situations began appearing on a monthly basis in 1972.
In issue number 4 of the Defenders, the team would gain a new member in the form of the Valkyrie, aka Brynhild, a major character from the Norse Ring Cycle, whose romance with the hero Sigurd played a central role in the story. Now, Brynhild was bonded to Barbara Norris, a woman who was on the verge of a mental breakdown after getting inadvertently trapped in a mystical dimension.
Also in issue number 4, the group got another member in the form of Dane Whitman, aka the Black Knight. Unfortunately, the story ended with the Black Knight being turned to stone, and that plays into the plot of today's story.
I suppose I should talk a little bit about the other super team in today's story. Now, this Avengers grouping is a pretty classic lineup featuring Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, the Scarlet Witch, the Vision, and the Black Panther. However, there are two additional teammates I think we should provide background information for.
The first is Jacques Duquesne, aka the Swordsman. The Swordsman is a swashbuckling freedom fighter turned thief who served as a member to a young Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. Swordsman is not only a master fencer, but he's also proficient in several other forms of hand-to-hand combat. The second character is Mantis, a half-Vietnamese, half-German woman who was taken in by a religious sect of the Kree and trained in various forms of martial arts. She also has some limited psychic powers. Mantis encountered the Swordsman in Vietnam.
And yeah, this is the same Mantis from the Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's another story for another time. For now, we have to cover Marvel's two preeminent super teams of the early 1970s as they square off against each other, try to save the Black Knight, and take on the nefarious forces manipulating them from the shadows. This is the Avengers Defenders War.
The Avengers arrive in England to question the whereabouts of the Black Knight after he failed to answer a distress call in the previous issue. After negotiating passage for Swordsman and Mantis with the British Arm of S.H.I.E.L.D., they arrive at the Knight's ancestral residence, only to find it blocked by an invisible barrier. Mantis and the Scarlet Witch detect the barrier's mystical origin. It was from Doctor Strange in Defenders number 4. Any further investigation is interrupted by the Troglodytes, subterranean humans who occasionally attack surface dwellers. It catches the Avengers off guard enough that they get overwhelmed and drag before the Troglodytes' leader, Skull. Skull explains the Troglodytes are descendants of poachers who were driven underground by the Arthurian Knights. The Troglodytes had also been subsisting on food stolen from the Black Knight's castle until Doctor Strange erected the barrier, which they now blame the Avengers for. The Avengers are then tossed into a crevasse containing a large scorpion-like creature. Thor, the Vision, and Mantis manage to break free and take down the monster. The Troglodytes try another tactic by dousing their torches in water and forcing the Avengers to fight in the dark, which aids the Troglodytes who can see in the dark. However, Black Panther can maneuver efficiently enough to take down several Troglodytes and grab hold of Skull. However, instead of continuing with any violence, the Avengers choose to alert British authorities who are willing to aid the Troglodytes into reintegrating back into society.
This first part contains an epilogue where we meet the villains of today's story. The first is Loki, the Norse god of mischief, who was blinded in an encounter with Thor that took place in Thor number 207. The other is the dread Dormammu, the ruler of the Dark Dimension, who wishes to extend his power to all dimensions that are possible.
Dormammu summons Loki with an offer. You see, the last time Dormammu took on Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme made the Dark Tyrant promise not to invade the dimension and try to conquer the Earth again. However, if Earth was somehow brought into Dormammu's dimension, then Earth would be ripe for the picking. Dormammu offers to restore Loki's eyesight in exchange in helping him trick the Defenders into assembling a device called the Evil Eye, which could transport Earth into Dormammu's dark dimension. Loki accepts, and the plan is now being formatted.
The Evil Eye is a relic from Arthurian times in the possession of an immortal man named Prester John. During an encounter with the Fantastic Four, the eye was shattered into 6 different pieces and spread across the Western Hemisphere.
Doctor Strange makes a breakthrough in trying to free the Black Knight and assembles the Defenders for assistance. One problem, only Hulk and the Silver Surfer arrive. Namor and the Valkyrie are missing. Hulk has an idea as to where they might be. Namor came to him, Valkyrie, as well as ex-Avenger Hawkeye, with news of an attempted invasion of Atlantis by longtime foe Attuma. Before anything else could happen, Attuma and his forces took the 3 non-Hulks hostage. Doctor Strange uses his powers to tap into the Hulk's mind and trace the brainwaves of the 3 captives. He finds that Attuma's troops have taken them to the Red Ghost, who has used a mind control device to force Namor, Valkyrie, and Hawkeye to lead an invasion of Atlantis.
Attuma is a nomadic warlord who's part of a sect of renegade Atlanteans who believe he is destined to overthrow Namor's undersea empire. The Red Ghost is Dr. Ivan Kragov, a Soviet scientist who tried to create a Russian Fantastic Four. Constant exposure to cosmic radiation has given the Red Ghost several powers, including the ability to bend cosmic rays to his will.
Doctor Strange and the Silver Surfer travel deep beneath the sea to Atlantis as Attuma begins his attack. However, the undersea pressure begins to affect Valkyrie, and the Barbara Norris part of her personality begins trying to assert control, causing the hero to begin hallucinating. Strange puts her to sleep, and then he and the Silver Surfer fly up into the cosmos and work a spell to block the cosmic radiation that powers the Red Ghost's mind control device. This is enough to free Namor, Valkyrie, and Hawkeye from the Red Ghost's mind control, and they work together to beat back Attuma's forces. The Defenders and Hawkeye return to the Sanctum Sanctorum, where the petrified body of the Black Knight is being held. Doctor Strange then uses the Orb of Agamotto to track down the Knight's soul. The soul is floating out in the ether when Strange manages to reach him. The Knight relays a message back to Earth. That message gets intercepted by Loki and Dormammu, who alter it to include a message about needing the evil eye in order to rescue the Black Knight, as well as the location of the 6 eye pieces. Meanwhile, the Avengers arrive at the Sanctum to inquire about the Black Knight. They barge their way past Wong, with Cap and Scarlet Witch catching a glimpse of the petrified Knight before Doctor Strange kicks everyone out. Strange then returns to trying to pin down the locations of the evil eye fragments. The fragments are scattered throughout North and South America, as well as parts of the Pacific Rim. The group then splits up to retrieve the pieces. As this is happening, Loki begins to think that the tyrant of a demonic dimension might go back on his word to restore the trickster god's eyesight. So he teleports to Avengers Mansion to fill them in on Dormammu's plan and implicate the Defenders as being accomplices. He also gives them the location of the evil eye fragments, and the Avengers split up to find them. First up is French Polynesia, where we find the Silver Surfer looking near a volcano and dealing with locals who believe him to be some type of volcano god.
Yeah, obviously parts of the story have not aged particularly well.
Surfer begins inspecting the area around the volcano, which is on the verge of eruption. He tries using the power of Cosmic to unearth the eye fragment just as Wanda and the Vision arrive. The Surfer's blast causes the Quinjet to explode, and Wanda is knocked unconscious. Seeking out to protect the woman he loves, the Vision tackles the Surfer back into the volcano.
Also, the natives believe they have to sacrifice the Scarlet Witch to the volcano god in order to stop it from erupting.
Surfer and the Vision manage to find the eye fragment, but the sight of the pyroclastic flow heading towards the unconscious Scarlet Witch causes the Vision to give up the fight and allows Surfer to leave with the piece. The Surfer returns to the Sanctum Sanctorum and fills Doctor Strange in on what happened. Strange uses the Orb of Agamotto to detect Loki's presence. Strange then sends an alert out to the others, as Wanda and Vision have alerted the other Avengers. The message is received by Valkyrie and Hawkeye as they drop down in Monterrey, Mexico. Hawkeye then tries to plant a kiss on Valkyrie as she prepares to head to Bolivia.
This is sexual harassment.
She rebukes the archer's advances by taking a swipe at him with her sword, though she later admits to herself that she actually kinda liked it.
And I'm gonna take it.
As she leaves, Hawkeye spots Iron Man arriving in Monterey. Stark stops off at a nearby technical institute where the eye fragment is being held, only for Hawkeye to snatch it away with a grappling hook arrow. The two begin fighting, with the archer trying to melt old Shellhead's shell head with acid. Finally, Hawkeye uses a magnetized arrow to draw a repulsor blast over towards a building. As Iron Man tries to save the innocent lives he affected, Hawkeye makes off with the eye fragment.
The next part of this story takes place in Indiana, and the way they've been depicting non-American cultures in this thing, I feel the only way to make up for it is to be stereotypical right back to the Americans.
Doctor Strange locates the evil eye fragment just as Black Panther and Mantis arrive. He then cloaks himself amongst a group of Hoosiers on their way to the Indianapolis 500. However, Mantis detects that a little old lady isn't a basketball fan and thus must be Doctor Strange. The trio begin fighting through a lot of cornfields until running across a farmer who's upset that they interrupted his viewing of the Dick the Bruiser match. Before you could say John Mellencamp, the farmer opens fire with a shotgun, with Mantis knocking the two men out of the line of fire. Strange then knocks everyone else out with a spell and leaves with the eyepiece. The commotion is enough enough for Dormammu to be alerted, and he is not pleased, as he wants Strange to be the one to bring about Earth's destruction, and any interference from the Avengers is not helping. Loki plays dumb, and Dormammu is forced to look on, as any interference from him would alert Doctor Strange to his presence. Moving on to Bolivia, the swordsman arrives at a relocated German castle where the evil eye fragment is located. Valkyrie is laying in wait for him and downs his Quinjet with her Pegasus Aragorn. Swordsman still manages to enter the castle and talking with its reclusive American keeper. Swordsman then hears a disturbance and rushes into a room full of Nazi gold and Valkyrie looking for the evil eye fragment. The two begin fighting with their swords, only to be interrupted by the Keeper locking them inside the room. The two then spot the evil eye fragment, with Swordsman grabbing it, only to be shot by the Keeper, who is afraid of them alerting the authorities to his secret cache of Nazi gold. Valkyrie does her best to care for Swordsman, but does leave with the fragment as the authorities arrive. Moving on to Japan, Captain America has encountered two forms of resistance. The first being from the locals, who still believe him to be a puppet of the American military, and the second from Namor, who has already found the eye fragment. Cap uses his shield to prevent Submariner from diving back into the ocean, and any further combat is then interrupted by Sunfire, who snatches the eye fragment away until the two can play nice. Namor takes off after Sunfire, letting slip the plan for resuscitating the Black Knight, which is enough to give Cap pause. So much pause, in fact, that when Sunfire drops the fragment, Cap elects to just give it to Namor, with the condition that the two super teams meet to talk things out. Meanwhile, the Hulk is in Los Angeles digging up the sidewalk and scattering celebrities and paparazzi alike. He finds the evil eye fragment quicker than you could say Burbank. It's then that Thor arrives and the two begin fighting, which attracts more attention than Elliot Gould taking out Jane Fonda for lunch.
What? It's the 1970s. You're expecting to see Bradley Cooper and Demi Lovato running around?
As this is happening, the Avengers and Defenders meet up to figure out what exactly is going on. They all seem to make peace, well, except for Hawkeye, and then head to Los Angeles as they realize their two most hot-tempered team members are still there fighting over the evil eye fragment.
It turns out that the events of Thor issue number 207, where Loki was blinded, took place in the town of Rutland, Vermont, which is also where Doctor Strange and the Defenders last encountered the Dread Dormammu. Now, why is Rutland, Vermont so important? Well, the town is actually host to a real-life Halloween parade where several individuals dress up like comic book superheroes. Most notably, the late founder of the parade, Tom Fagan, who dressed up as Batman. Marvel and DC creators have used the Rutland Halloween parade in several of their stories, including one that acted as a covert intercompany crossover.
After talking down the Hulk and Thor, the two teams assemble the Evil Eye, only for one of Dormammu's minions to swipe the artifact upon completion. The Dark Tyrant then begins transporting Earth into his dimension and turning the citizens of Los Angeles into monsters.
There's a plastic surgery joke to be made in there somewhere.
Both super teams do their best to fight off the monsters without doing too much harm, as these are still innocent people. Doctor Strange and Captain America begin arguing over what to do, as Strange wants to take on Dormammu, but Cap wants to protect the innocents. It's then that S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives to lend a hand and allow everyone to go after Dormammu. Unfortunately, not too long after the heroes leave, Fury's agents also begin changing. Back with the villains, Dormammu reveals that he has no intentions of restoring Loki's eyesight and traps the trickster god in a cage.
I'm so shocked.
Dormammu then spots Doctor Strange and the others, who have not come to bargain. It's then that Uatu the Watcher appears, but he's only here to observe. The heroes fight their way through Dormammu's forces and make their way to the Tyrant. However, the evil eye is too powerful. It turns the ground the heroes are standing on into quicksand, and even reverts Iron Man and Thor to their civilian identities. The Scarlet Witch is the only one who managed to avoid the quicksand, and she can use magic, so she can take down Dormammu as Doctor Strange is incapacitated. However, before she can do anything, Dormammu tries to encase her in glue, which he begins raining down upon her. Unbeknownst to Dormammu, Loki has managed to escape his cage by briefly turning into a fly. He then returns to his normal form and tackles Dormammu from behind. This is enough for Wanda to break free and blast the villains with a spell that causes the evil eye to absorb Dormammu's energy and redirect it at Loki. This returns everything on Earth back to normal and people are no longer monsters. Loki's eyesight is restored, but he's driven insane and been reverted into an infant-like state. Doctor Strange then wipes the knowledge of Iron Man and Thor's identities from the other heroes' minds as they return to Earth.
Why did Doctor Strange do the mind wipe? I mean, if they were amongst the general populace, I would understand, but why would the other superheroes care who Tony Stark and Donald Blake are?
The Defenders, along with Hawkeye, return to the Sanctum Sanctorum, where Doctor Strange sets out to save the Black Knight. He astral projects out into the ether where he last encountered Dane Whitman's soul. Unfortunately, it's not there anymore. In fact, it's not anywhere anymore. When Strange returns to explain what happened, everyone is immediately teleported back to the time of the Crusades, where the Black Knight is waiting for them. Before anything can be explained, the group is set upon by the Muslim forces, who have a secret weapon in the form of giant gnomes.
Yes, it appears that's what gnomes in the Marvel Universe look like.
Doctor Strange teleports everyone away, and the Knight explains the Muslims have aligned themselves with Mordred, the Knight's longtime foe and illegitimate son of King Arthur. Mordred tricked King Richard and took him hostage, so Merlin teleported the Defenders back in time in order to help the Europeans. With that, Doctor Strange formulates a plan where he, Namor, and the Hulk go after Mordred while the others set about freeing King Richard. Both groups wind up getting entangled with Mordred's gnomes until Namor manages to realize that these things are not water solvent and uses an aquifer to wipe them out. However, in the scuffle, Mordred gained control of the Evil Eye. Before he gets any chance to use it, though, Prester John, the original owner of the Evil Eye, appears. John reclaims the Eye and dispatches Mordred. Prester John then makes an offer to the Black Knight to stay back in the Crusades, as his skills are a better use in this time period than they are in the modern world. The Knight accepts, and the Defenders return home, and Hawkeye politely turns down an offer for membership, and everyone but Strange and Valkyrie leaves until they are needed again.
And that concludes the Avengers Defenders War. How was it? Well, I'm going to admit right off the bat, I'm not a huge fan of the whole superheroes have a misunderstanding that could be easily solved in 5 minutes if they just sat and talked. Instead, they fight storyline. But I think this is actually one of the better examples of this. I think there's some great action and some good characterization throughout all of this. Everything feels really spot on, and like each of the team members do sort of contribute in their own unique way, including Hawkeye, who's not a member of either team. And there's some really good artwork in this by both Sal Buscema and Bob Brown. I mean, Bob Brown had to come in at one point, probably because Sal Buscema wasn't able to meet the deadline, and you really don't notice that at all. It feels good, has a good continuous flow to it. Unfortunately, on the downside, it feels like there are parts of this thing that are missing, at least missing from this collection. I am aware that there's an Epic collection, but I'm going to get to the problems with that in just a sec. I feel like, say, the Thor issue 207 where Loki was blinded, and Defenders number 4 where the Black Knight was turned to stone. I mean, that's really the thing that kind of kicks this whole thing off in a way. Should be in this collection, and they're not. They're also not in the Epic collection. The Epic collection only seems to have a bunch of issues that tie into the climactic battle against the Dread Dormammu, and while that's nice, it doesn't make it feel any less lacking. Also, the ending for this kind of kills it for me. I mean, the whole rigmarole was started trying to save the Black Knight, and then the Black Knight doesn't come back. I mean, I know he eventually comes back. I reviewed Avengers Under Siege, where he plays a prominent role, remember? But it feels kind of pointless in the end. And that's why, unfortunately, I have to give the Avengers Defenders War a C. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Hey guys, got a request for the show? Check out my Patreon at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcatproductions. And if you like the video, give it a like, share it, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.